Hi, Oisin.
Hi, Tom.
It's great to see you.
You too.
Who needs words when you can float through life with a tune from Oisin? That's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's really great that you've come to share some of your passions with me, with us. I think you're a really interesting guy, and I'd like to hear a little bit about Oisin's journey to grand design.
Oh, thank you very much.
Maybe we'll just play a few tunes instead, because I think that probably has the answer hidden in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Grand design's really catchy, I have to say. I heard it twice, and I couldn't get it out of my head for days.
Well, that's great, man. That's lovely.
Oh look, we have a visitor. Hello Luna, how are you? Goodbye. So I was hoping, we could find out about its genesis.
Yeah. So, Grand Design was a tune I wrote about 5 years ago, maybe. Kind of took me until this year to get it professionally recorded and be really happy with the arrangement of the song. But it started basically with messing around with this. It's just that round of chords. It started with that just when I was playing around one evening with my guitar. And sometimes when you're writing, it's like you'll have something like that you're like, that's good, that feels right, like that feels like it could be something. And then, so over that, this idea I've always been interested in the idea of stories and different people's stories, you know. So the verses for the song are kind of like little non sequitur rhyming couplets, you know, 6 of them. And it just fit perfectly over that. So that happened in about 10 minutes time one evening, and then I kind of needed a chorus to put it together, and I realised then that one of my favourite things to do is play a major 7 chord here and go to the 4th and play a major 7 chord as well. So that, and then drop to there, finish on a dominant chord. It's like the round for the chorus. So I realised that, right, verses, they're there, okay, cool. So I was just messing around playing the verses being like, little boy weeping, Lord save his soul, I feel those feelings, or so I'm told, and so on. And then I needed something that would kind of bring the two things together. So it's very simple to do this. And I've always loved that groove thing, hitting on the 2 and 4. And leave a little bit of a rest. And then it was another evening, and I was sitting at home looking out over the river. We're lucky enough to live in a little valley, and I was sitting there, and I was not having a very good time. I was one of those moments where you feel kind of very alone, or a little bit like you're the only person who has problems, like, you know, which I think is an illusion that we all fall into sometimes, you know. So there was a little bit of that going on, and then the lines, if you're lost at sea and you'll think of me and this melody, you'll find that all your fears and thoughts will slip away as part of this grand design. That kind of just came as one thing, and then I realised it fits over. If you're lost at sea and you'll just think of me and this melody, you'll find that all of your fears and thoughts will slip away as part of this grand design. So that, I had 2 halves of a song essentially, and then it was like, okay, cool, how can you make them link together? And that took a little bit of time of like playing through it, just going in for maybe 20-minute sessions at a time over a couple of days, and trying to get the whole song to kind of come together. And then I was really lucky to have some exceptionally talented musicians, 3 of my oldest friends, the Duffy brothers, who are up in Meath, and my younger brother Emmett, to play on the EP tracks with me. and they help with the arrangement process. And when you have different instruments then as well, it's really cool. You can make it something more than the sum of its parts, like, you know. So like, it's nice to play just a stripped down version with me and an acoustic guitar, but it's great when you've got like Aidan playing that intricate little hook riff at the start on an electric guitar, and then Emmett padding it out, and Ben keeping a really tight groove behind, and Tom linking in with Ben as well. So yeah,
it's a great track, actually. It sounds good, and they're great musicians. I mean, you introduced me to the lads when we did the open mic, and yeah, I'm a bit jealous that you live in a world of such fun and talent. And certainly, you know, your talent shows through as you tell the story about Grand Design. And I know you've been a musician since you took your first breath almost. But what's interesting about the genesis that you just explained was that it seemed to be almost accidental. It was, yes, a great deal of talent and passion and willingness, but also that it was something that you wanted to share with other people. As you say, it was snippets of stories from other people, and we all have our own little focus, as you say, and we get into ourselves, and at the end of the day we ask questions like, what is the meaning of life? And maybe that's a little bit what this Grand Design is, and it's a sort of a sharing, saying, look, everybody, it's not such a big drama, there is something big going on, and just listen to the tune and let it flow or something. And I mean, I know you've spoken about stories with me and life's journey, and how the river can represent life's journey and so on. I mean, Grand Design is your first EP, as I understand it, so it's, in some ways, it's an important milestone in your life's journey. Have you had any reflections on how you came from an idea, an accident with Mummy and Daddy one day, into this place of releasing yourself to the world?
Well, yeah, like I'm very, very lucky to have had the parents that I had, in that music was always around. So always there was music on, and Dad had a great record collection as well, which is super, because you get a sort of a sound from a vinyl recording that you just do not get on digital or any other form. Like, it's just, there's this crackle off it and this depth to the sound.
I was going to say the hiss in the background.
Yeah, the hiss in the background, like, absolutely. And so that's always been something, like, being exposed to that, I think, has just kind of made me who I am. I think it's being exposed to that, and then a combination of Mum bringing me to tin whistle lessons when I was about 7 or 8 years of age, and Emmett.
That late?
Yeah. It was. I started playing tin whistle when I was about 7, and then I remember we were down on holidays in Tramore, County Waterford, because Dad was a school teacher, so we used to go off on, you know, Irish holidays. We'd never really go to Lanzarote or anything like that, but we'd go down to maybe Kerry for a weekend camping or something like that, you know. And school teachers have those great 3 months of the summer, you know, the great thing about being a school teacher. So we were down on holidays, and I pretty much ruined the family holiday by begging for a guitar, because I'd seen one in a shop window, and I'd just really been attracted to it. I don't know exactly quite what it was. I think it might have been listening to albums like Harvest by Neil Young, and just the sound of it. Like, I have to put a capo on the guitar, but like things like the album starts with a tune called Out on the Weekend, and it's like, and it just goes on like that. Just that for me was like, oh, just mind blown. I was like, that's just so beautiful. So I think there was something going on there, and then I was really lucky that it was kind of, I think my birthday was coming up, and so as an early birthday present, when we got home from the family holiday, my very first guitar was like in my bedroom waiting for me. And yeah, so, and then it was just ages of like trying to play what's the Horse with No Name by America, like. Yeah, exactly, yeah. So that tune, and then what was the other couple of first ones I learned was like "Year the Cat" by Al Stewart as well. So it's like. So that's just like all of those shapes just require 2 fingers. So when you're like 9 or 10 years of age and you can't really reach and you don't have much hand strength, it's really nice to be able to just go and you start just strumming like this and trying to change in time and counting. And then eventually through just like hours of sitting in my bedroom and hours of listening to music and kind of developing a feel for it. I suppose the thing I sometimes think about music is that it's a perfect example of something that's bigger than everybody else, and everybody understands it. Like cross-culturally, it doesn't matter where you come from. Like there is music almost, well, it's everywhere. Like, you know, and there's something amazing that if you give music the time it kind of deserves, if you allocate the little place in your life, some people would call it like, you know, having a practice routine or whatever. But if you play music enough, you'll just kind of absorb a feeling for it, so to speak. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm the greatest musician ever or something like that, but you can feel it coming along. Like I think back to when I was maybe 10, 11 or 12 and you just don't have quite the feel, you know. You'll play like something like, and it'll be, you won't quite have the certain je ne sais quoi to it.
You'll be marching instead of dancing.
Yes, exactly. That's it. Yeah, that's a very, very perfect way of putting it. You'll be ba, 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 rather than maybe playing with being a little bit ahead or a little bit behind, you know.
Cool. That's very interesting. The world has changed a lot recently. People like yourself who bring a bit of passion, a bit of spirit into our lives, the entertainers, the artists. And I'm not talking about celebrities because, you know, celebrities are fine, but they're money machines and that's a different kind of game. It's great to have the music, but for people who actually want to share their passion and eat, being a minstrel has always been a tough life.
Yes.
You know, you bring the colour, you bring the dance, you bring the tune, and hopefully somebody throws some pennies in your bowl at the end of the meal.
Yeah.
And these days, everything crashing down. I mean, I know you've said, I've got to change my life. I mean, yes, get the internet sorted, but can we play at pubs anymore, for example?
We don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do you have any advice for the entertainer in us who maybe is thinking about a career, a singing career, a rapping career, a music career, and even an artist, a painter, somebody who wants to bring some creativity, inspiration and passion and share that without necessarily being rich and famous, but at least eating? Do you have any ideas that might help?
I think it comes back to that thing of play and adopting a mindset that's very growth orientated. I think the part of the reason that we get educated out of our creativity perhaps is that we lose that kind of childlike ability to fuck things up, I suppose, you know, to make mistakes and to just to
they say failure is learning.
Yeah, this is it, exactly. Like to be okay with failing stuff. Like you have to be okay with failure, I think, to be able to create anything interesting, like, you know, and to learn as well, like, and those two things go hand in hand. So for me, if somebody was trying to, you know, they played guitar and they really wanted to, you know, write a song or something like that, it's that thing of being very gentle with yourself, not being too self-critical, like, you know. And it's strange, there's a fine balance to be found, because you obviously don't want to be sharing something before it's ready. Like, I think you need to go and play and make sure that something sounds the way that you think it should sound, you know, and not even that it just sounds okay, because that, just relying on that can sometimes not be exactly the thing you're looking for. For me, with, say, music, it's whether or not it feels right, like, because if it feels right, it probably is going to be right, like, you know.
Thank you. That's really good advice. Good advice for me, because I often like to put the half-baked cake on the table and expect everybody to dig in and say it's yummy. Because I'm eager and I suppose greedy, desirous, but yeah, maybe I just need to become a bit more of a craftsman and a little bit less of a consumer.
Maybe like it's that thing of it's like polishing something. Like, do you know what I mean? You wouldn't show somebody a lovely polished piece of wood or something, you know, or like a granite countertop that has lovely colouring in it. You wouldn't show that to somebody when it's still a little bit rough around the edges, so to speak. And I think something that can also knock back people's confidence when they're trying to create things is by showing something that's only halfway there, like, you know. But it is a kind of a weird balance to find as well, because if you don't go out and show stuff to people, then you're not going to get that positive feedback loop of being like, oh cool, I got that thing. So I would say it's really important to just get something, like one thing that you really, really like, a party piece, so to speak, and then show that, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you don't have to play 20 tunes in an evening, like, you know, just get something and show people. I also think on that note that it's not even necessarily about being great at what you do. It's not, I don't think that, I think that's not really the most important thing. I think Oscar Wilde kind of has expounded on that idea best, that whole thing of aestheticism, art for art's sake, like, because it makes life a little bit more worth living, and a bit richer, you know. And like my personal thing is, like, it doesn't really matter how many people are listening to music that I'm making. It really doesn't, because I've no control over that at the end of the day. That takes, you know, to become rich and famous out of music or something like that takes a lot of luck, like, in some ways as well. But if you can affect one person positively, one person, if you make them feel something, be it through a painting that you've done, be it through something you've sculpted or made out of pottery, be it through a song that you've sang or a piece of poetry that you've written, like that, you've kind of done your job. If you've affected one person positively and you've made them just go, oh yeah, or, you know, you've given them a little bit of a light when everything looked dark.
That's wonderful, Oisin. Thanks. You inspire me.
Sure.
I think I'll start sharing a lot of my rubbish on the internet now. I'm sure I won't have anybody watching it, but no, you're great. Thanks for all the inspiration you've given me and us and our family. Certainly a lot more music is in the house since you brought the guys around for the open mic.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah. I wish you the very best with Grand Design. I hope people enjoy it, listen it, make a contribution to keep you going in your wonderful creative career.
Thank you very much.
We love you. Take it easy.
Great love, man.